This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, the left's nightmare of Trump defending the border. With us this evening, Daniel Greenfield, a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and the editor of the blog The Point at frontpagemag.com. And he is back by popular demand. Daniel, welcome back to the Glazov Gang.
Thank you so much for having me on once more.
All right. Well, look, I can't help it because I'm being flooded by emails. I think you are as well. People are stopping me at the grocery store whenever I'm out. Everybody's talking about the hat, Daniel. Before we continue, can we have an update?
Well, the hat is becoming far more popular than I am. I suspect in a week or two, the hat is just going to take over my writing duties. It's not going to have a lot to say, but it's going to make an impact.
Right, right. Daniel, a lot of people email me and ask me questions to ask you. Just a few off the top of my head. Is the hat connected to the ideological movement itself, or is it just a prop?
Well, we're reclaiming the idea of the hat. Once upon a time, men wore hats, women wore hats, people dressed with dignity and decorum, and now we're bringing the hat back.
Is the hat a conservative hat or not really? Or
I think all hats are conservative these days. And you know, this presidential campaign has been based very much around the hat.
Certain rumors are going around on the streets of Los Angeles that you sleep in the hat. Is this true, or you don't want to answer that?
I only sleep in the hat for defensive purposes.
Okay. Let us move on to the important issues of our time. Daniel, incredible article you just wrote for Front Page Magazine about how the military can secure the border and build the wall. You're supporting Trump on this. You know, Daniel, of course, we both find this very interesting, what the left is all about. The United States is facing this caravan of illegals, just these thousands of people heading to the United States. Who knows who's inside, you know, who's part of this whole caravan, who these individuals are. And the left is very upset that Trump may do something, the president of a country may do something to stop illegals from coming into the United States. What does this say about the left? They're just going crazy on CNN and MSNBC.
You know, they're just worried about their voters being illegal aliens and gang members from El Salvador and Honduras. But you know, the absurdity of this is very typical of the left because, you know, when Obama actually sent the National Guard to the border, they had no problems with that, just like when Obama had his own temporary travel ban, they had no problem with that either. It's only when President Trump does something that they get very upset because, you know, the President Trump is actually trying to protect this country where Obama was doing their bidding. So whatever he might do was not a problem there. Now, the fact of the matter is we are facing a serious and major threat. President Trump is trying to deal with that, and the military has always been used to deal with that in the past. And, you know, it's time we did that again.
But the assumption here somewhere with these leftists is Obama can send, let's say, even soldiers to Libya or anywhere else, but you can't protect your own country. What's the rationale there?
They don't believe that America is worth protecting. They believe that America should be destroyed. So when Obama decides to declare an illegal war in Libya without ever actually once calling it a war, tries to turn over the country to the Muslim Brotherhood, gets multiple Americans killed in the process, of course, that's not a problem. We can protect the borders of any and every country. Well, you know, we can't protect the borders of some countries that are more Western, but we can certainly protect all sorts of other countries. But we can't protect our own borders because that whole idea is obviously racist. Who are we to say that an illegal gang member from El Salvador shouldn't be in America? Who are we to say that the illegal alien drunk driver who's been deported 3 times and still runs over your kid shouldn't be in this country? I mean, that's just discriminatory. It's intolerant.
Daniel, something very surreal is happening. What is this whole caravan about? Where is it from? Why are they publicizing it? Why are they heading to the United States? What's happening here? And of course, a lot of evidence is that there's a lot of drug smugglers and gang members that are part of this whole thing.
Well, the particular caravan, which at one point had over 1,000 people, was part of something called People Without Frontiers, whose goal obviously is very much to break down borders. And so they announce themselves. They make a public statement of it, and they're using these people who are migrants as human shields. Some of them might actually be fleeing war-torn countries. Others are drug dealers using them as human shields. But the reality is we're dealing with a much bigger problem than this. This is just an attempt to gain publicity. We have a huge flow of illegal alien traffic through the border. We have plenty of people who engage in visa overstays, and all those are very major problems. So when guys like this advertise themselves, they're making a statement that they don't believe the United States should have borders. And it's obviously important to push back against them. But beyond that, we need to secure our border in general.
Daniel, it appears that many of these migrants are coming from Honduras, El Salvador, if I'm correct. They're coming through Mexico on the way to the United States. Are they racist towards Mexico? Why don't they stay in Mexico? Why are they coming to the United States? What's wrong with Mexico? It sounds very racist.
Mexico has much more serious immigration laws than we do, and they take them very, very seriously. You can't do the stuff in Mexico that you can do here. So Mexico is okay somewhat with these people coming through Mexico, as long as they're just going through Mexico and spending some money there, if only to coyotes, as long as they're headed toward the United States. They're not going to be allowed to stay in Mexico. So right now, under pressure from President Trump, Mexico is breaking up some of these people, and they're going to go home. Mexico is not going to let them stay. Mexico has very, very strict immigration laws. One of the interesting things about Mexico's immigration laws is that they emphasize racial composition. I forget the exact wording, but the ethnic composition of the country. So they are very literally racist by the left standards, but the reality is Mexico has very clear ideas of who they want in the country, who they don't want in the country. Mexico, they actually enforce immigration laws, and they take immigration laws seriously because they care about their country. Unfortunately, we don't care about our country. Our leaders certainly don't care about our country. The politicians who want illegal aliens above all else don't care about our country. And so we can actually look to Mexico as a role model for immigration laws.
Daniel, why isn't the left up in arms about how Mexico is not letting everybody in?
Well, Mexico lets people in as long as they're headed to America. The left doesn't want to talk about racism in Mexico, which is very much an issue, much as it's an issue in really most countries south of the border. But the reality is virtually every country in the world has more of a racism issue than the United States does, but the left completely ignores that because it's inconvenient to its narrative.
But what I also mean is that Mexico is strict on illegal immigration, but the left doesn't criticize Mexico for not taking in illegal immigrants.
Well, again, this has always been the consistent pattern on the left. The left claims to stand for certain things, whether it's feminism or gay rights, and yet it never actually calls out Muslim countries, or for that matter, communist countries, when they brutalize women, when they kill gay people. This has always been the way it was. The Soviet Union had no labor unions, yet all the labor unions, of course, how much better it would be under communism. So the left is hypocritical about the things that it claims to believe in. It advocates certain things like illegal immigration because they serve its goals. It doesn't mean that it's actually consistent in enforcing that around the world.
So Daniel, tell us why Trump is doing the right thing and why he's legitimate in sending troops to the border, and also even his recent announcement that the military will help build the wall.
Well, it's completely legitimate as far as using the military there. And again, as I've mentioned, Obama and Bush both sent the National Guard to the border. Hopefully, President Trump will go beyond what they did and will actually allow the National Guard to serve a more direct function than just providing equipment and surveillance aid, which is what looks like is likely to happen now. But the military has always played a major role in securing the border from Mexico. We've been dealing with this in the 19th century. We're dealing with this in the 20th century. And whether it was Pancho Villa, whether it was Indian raids, we've always had this problem. And the military has always been there securing the border. The larger issue, though, is whether the wall can be built by the military. And there are a lot of people who have been making arguments various ways. But most people are not aware of is that we do have military assistance to the Border Patrol. And they're already there. They're constructing roads. They're constructing border fencing. All we have to do is scale up beyond border fencing to look at a larger, comprehensive wall. And, you know, the military's primary role is to defend the United States, to defend the borders and the national security of the United States. You know, what's a greater example of defending the security of the United States, defending the borders of the United States, than actually having a wall on the border?
Daniel, it's so, I don't even know what word to use, but very interesting about the left and what it shows about the left. You have this caravan of illegals coming. They're potentially filled with criminals and drug dealers and the cartel and drug smugglers and potential rapists. The president is going to defend our border, and the left is just in agony that the border of the United States is being protected from illegal immigration. What does this ultimately say about the left and what it really wants?
It rejects the entire idea of America. It does reject American citizenship. Does it reject the idea that the United States should have any actual defined borders? If you understand the left, if you understand their mindset, the United States is an illegitimate entity. All the borders are just land stolen from the Indians, stolen from Mexico, stolen from so on and so forth. With borders shouldn't exist except maybe in the Middle East and parts of Africa, but certainly not in the United States, maybe in Latin America, but certainly not here. We're not allowed to have borders. We're not allowed to have a country. We're not allowed to have history. We're not allowed to exist. We're not allowed to have rights as citizens. The left wants clients. It wants people who will come here and agitate for its causes, which basically means a welfare state administered by a totalitarian socialist regime, and the illegal aliens are very useful for that purpose. And that purpose is the destruction and dismantling of the United States.
The left, what an evil, evil, diabolical movement, showing its stripes once again in just being in agony and fury that our president wants to defend the American border. It's just incredible. Daniel, before we go, what's been on your mind lately?
Well, I'm actually looking at a variety of stories. One of them involves the new campaign against the former President McKinley. They're talking in California City about tearing down one of his statues. Now, you know, before we had the whole thing with tearing down Confederate statues, and they told us it was going to end with Confederate statues. The Confederates were not nice people. They were racist. We're going to tear them down. Now, President McKinley was a Civil War veteran. His campaign, he was a Republican, by the way, his campaign was supported by suffragists. It was supported by African Americans, and yet they want to tear down his statues. So it's not going to end anywhere. It's going to end with the complete destruction of America. And whether it's illegal aliens or whether it's destroying our history, this is what the left does. Their goal is the complete destruction of the United States. This is what the left does when it takes over a country. And we need to stand up and we need to fight for America.
Absolutely. And thank God we have President Trump in office, because Hillary was really going to finish off or try to finish off what Obama had started, correct?
No question about it.
So we've gotten a brief reprieve, or hopefully a longer reprieve, with Trump in office. Am I correct?
Well, we've bought ourselves a chance, as Benjamin Franklin said, and I paraphrase, it's a republic if we can keep it. We've bought ourselves, every time we elect a Republican president, we get a little bit of an extension. We get a little bit of life-saving drugs in our system. But the reality is we need to be thinking ahead. We need to be thinking, how can we make the most of it? How can we actually save this country?
Absolutely. Daniel, thank you for all that you do, and good luck at the point where you're doing a magnificent job.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership, and good night.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for watching the Glazov Gang this evening. Please remember, we're a fan-generated program. We're only here because of you. Please help us keep going at jamieglazov.com, and make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel of the Glazov Gang. Good night. Glazov Gang. Good night. The Glazov Gang. Good night.